It started as something harmless, cute even. My girlfriend talks in her sleep. At first it was innocent nonsense. The sky is folding, or we need to raise the ground. We'd laugh about it the next day. But last night was different. Last night, it wasn't her voice I heard in the dark. Let me back up a bit. Our nightly routine was simple, cuddling until it got too hot, then turning back to back. I'd usually stay up reading while she fell asleep. She'd mumble and I'd laugh, eager to hear what funny phrase she'd come up with next. But that night, I was deep into my book when I heard her mumble again. I leaned over, curious, but she looked sound asleep. I shrugged it off, returning to my book, not knowing what the night had in store for me. The next thing I knew, I woke up to her voice, not a mumble this time. She was speaking at full volume. I turned to face her, and that's when I froze. She was staring at me, wide-eyed, her gaze piercing. But something wasn't right. Her eyes didn't look human. They were too wide, too vacant, like they were looking through me rather than at me. I threw off the covers and jumped out of bed, adrenaline pumping. Her head didn't move, but her eyes followed me. When I asked if she was okay, she didn't respond. But then, in a voice far too deep to be hers, she said, "Come back to bed, dearie." Dearie? She's never called me that before. My stomach turned. Something was wrong. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was having a bad dream. But then her eyes started darting around the room, from the walls to the ceiling. Her fingers moved too, but not like normal fingers. They were stiff, almost claw-like. And that's when she said it. "Take one step out of that door and I'll rip out your throat and..." Well, you get the picture. I grabbed my water bottle, desperate to do something. But when I told her I was going to get a drink, she screamed, a scream so shrill, so unnatural, it felt like the walls themselves were vibrating. I acted on instinct, throwing the water on her. She stopped moving. Her breathing normalized, and her eyes closed like nothing had happened. I just stood there, trembling, clutching the empty water bottle like it was a weapon. I couldn't stay in that room. I grabbed a blanket and camped out on the couch, replaying the entire night in my head. She doesn't remember anything. Not the screaming, not the voice, not the way her eyes looked. She laughed it off this morning, calling it a weird dream, but I know what I saw, and I'm not going back to that bed, at least not for a while. Sleep talking might seem harmless, but sometimes it's better not to listen. If anyone else has had an experience like this, let me know in the comments. I'm starting to think this isn't just a coincidence. Have a sleepwalking or sleep-talking story of your own. Share it below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more chilling tales like this one. The emergency alert said it wasn't a test. It told us to lock our doors, turn off our lights, and hide. It didn't say why. It didn't tell us what was coming. When I heard the broadcast, it sounded like something out of a horror movie. But this wasn't fiction. This was real. And by the time I realized what was happening, it was already too late. I was lying on my couch when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an emergency alert that seemed off. Citizens of the world, lock all doors. Close your blinds. Do not look outside. Do not leave your house. Stay in a room with no windows. Turn off all lights. I grabbed what I could, a flashlight, my phone, food, and a blanket. I locked myself in the bathroom, trying to make sense of it. What kind of global emergency would require every single person to hide? When I texted my parents, they confirmed they got the same alert. So did my friend halfway across the world. That's when the fear started to creep in. 20 minutes later, another alert came through. Unknown creatures are knocking on doors and killing anyone who opens them. They are targeting major cities first: Washington, D.C., Tokyo, Toronto, Moscow, and London. Do not look outside. Do not open your doors. May God help us all. I froze. Creatures? Killing people? This had to be some kind of sick joke, right? Then I heard it. Car alarms blaring, glass shattering, something heavy smashing into buildings. It sounded like a war zone outside, but with no gunfire, just chaos. I tried texting my family again. No response. Then came the knocks. It started faint, just a light tap on my apartment door. Then it grew louder, more insistent. I heard a voice. "Please, open up. I need help." It sounded human, but I knew better. The alert said they could mimic us. I stayed silent, clutching my flashlight like it was a weapon. The knocking stopped, but the sounds outside got worse. I heard buildings collapsing, sirens wailing, and something growling. My apartment shook as if something massive had struck it. All I could do was sit in the dark and pray it didn't find me. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. I lost track of time. Then another alert came through. The extraterrestrials have left. Billions are dead. If you are alive, tap the button on your phone or tune your radio to 104. I tapped the button, my hands shaking. My phone buzzed back. "We have accounted for just over 1 billion survivors worldwide." 1 billion out of 8 billion. I felt sick. I checked my messages. Only 3 people I knew had survived: my sister, my uncle, and my best friend. Everyone else, my parents, my co-workers, my neighbors, were gone. The next alert came 2 weeks later. "We do not understand what the creatures wanted or why they left. For now, humanity must focus on rebuilding. Survivors are urged to report to designated safe zones." But how do you rebuild a world that's been shattered? How do you move on when the guilt of surviving is heavier than anything you've ever felt? I've tried to keep going, to hold on to the hope that humanity can recover. But every time I close my eyes, I hear the knocking. I see the empty streets. I feel the weight of everyone we lost. I don't know if the world will ever be the same. I don't know if I will ever be the same. But if you're watching this, maybe you're a survivor too. Maybe we can figure this out together. Tell me in the comments, where were you when it happened? What did you hear? What do you think those creatures wanted? Until then, stay safe. And if you ever hear a knock on your door, don't answer it.